Welcome to another Gearwig Battle Report, a 50-point game between the Legion of Everblight and the Retribution of Syra. Man, that was a scary couple weeks there where we didn't do a battle report between Legion and Retribution, but we're back to what we do best, watching dragons and elves fight each other. Brian brought Gareth today, with Imperatus and a Banshee in his battle group. He has Silas Wishniller, 2 Arcanists, a Mage Hunter Assassin, Narn, a Magister, a full unit of Infiltrators with the Iris UA and a Soulless Escort, and a full unit of the Mage Hunter Strike Force with a UA. For 50 points of Retribution. James is back, but with Legion this time. He has Epic Thagrosh, a Character Beast Typhon, a Ravagore, 2 Rakes, and 3 Shredders for a rather large battle group. He has a full unit of Ogre and War Spears with their Chieftain UA. He has a Shepherd. He has a Forsaken, being proxied by a different model, and Anissa, the Light Cavalry solo, for 50 points of Legion. This game was played on the Outflank scenario with 2 neutral zones. It's also part of the Riven Bonds League, so each player has a solo with some special hero abilities that may come up in the game. James deploys like this. He has Anissa down by the lower flank. His large battle group is in the center. He's got a Shepherd and a Forsaken hanging out behind them. The full unit of Ogrins and their UA are taking the top. Brian's Infiltrators advance deployed across from the lower zone. Gareth and his battle group are in the center like this with their support models. And the Strike Force and Narn advance deployed in front of the top zone. Anissa chose the Mage Hunter Assassin to be her prey, and the Ogrins chose the Strike Force to be their prey. James starts his turn by activating a Rake. He advances the Rake, and then he forces him to jump 5 inches. This is a lot like running the Rake, except he doesn't go quite as far, but it looks cooler. The other Rake activates and does the same. Bounce. Yep. The Ravagore activates and just advances. He looks to take a shot at the Infiltrators. The shot will come up short and scatter. The shot ends up here and leaves behind an AoE that will damage anyone that walks into it. Thagrosh goes next and casts Dragon's Blood on the Ogren. They'll get +2 armor, and if they are disabled by a melee attack, the attacker has a chance of taking 1 damage. Thagrosh then flies into the forest. He burns some fury by casting Typhon's Animus, excessive healing. The Ogren unit then activates and runs. Anissa advances toward the hill, and then she uses her light cav move to continue advancing toward the hill. This is just like a run, except it looks cooler and doesn't go as far. Typhon activates and runs. The Shredder activates. He uses his Rabbit ability to get +2 speed and Pathfinder, and then he is forced to run, which will leave 2 fury on him. Another Shredder will advance and use his Tenacity Animus on Typhon. And the last Shredder will use his Rabbit ability and then run. We'll try to stay within range of the Shepherd though, so that fury can be dropped. The Forsaken activates next. Thanks to the Riven Bonds bonuses, she is allowed a 5-inch jump after she advances. The place effect putting her completely within 5 inches. So she gets to bump up here, and then she uses her ability to eat some of the Shredder's Fury. Shepherd then activates and advances up. She's looking to take some of the Shredder's Fury. It looks like she gets within 3 inches of Thagrosh, which means she should be making a command check thanks to his Abomination ability, but we're always forgetting that rule, so she gets away with one here. And that is the end of James's first turn. Gareth holds on to all of his focus to start the turn. The Infiltrators activate first, and they just advance. And they end up like this. Thanks to their UA, they can now take Reform moves, which is 3 more inches of movement. Both players apparently allergic to first turn running. This is like a run, but it looks cooler. The Mage Hunter Assassin shuffles over a little bit. She is Brian's Riven Bonds hero. She has a couple special abilities, most notably Death Defying. The first time she gets hit on a turn, she suffers no damage. An Arcanist goes next. He advances up and then casts Power Booster on the Banshee, giving it a focus point. The Banshee then activates, advances up to the wall, and attempts to take a shot at the Shredder. It ends up being just out of range, and the attack automatically misses. Gareth goes next, and he advances up to the wall. He'll then cast Mirage on himself. That gives him Apparition. He'll get a 2-inch placement at the beginning of his next turn. Then Silas activates. He just advances up to hang out near Gareth. The second Arcanist activates, advances up and turns to face Imperatus. He casts Power Booster, putting a focus point on Imperatus. Imperatus then activates and spends that focus to run. Then the Magister goes and he runs. The Strike Force go next. They don't want to end up within charge range of those Ogrins, so they just advance up a little. And they end up like this. Narn runs next. He has Acrobatics, so he can move through other models. That'll end Brian's first turn, with the board looking like this. With all the jumping and rabid running, James accidentally put one too many Fury out on his first turn. One Rake will have to make a threshold check needing an 8 or less, but he passes it. Again, this Shredder will go rabid, and he'll run, putting 2 Fury on him, and allowing him to get way up here. A second Shredder goes rabid. He advances through the forest now that he has Pathfinder, and then he uses his Tenacity Animus on the Rake, giving him +1 defense and armor. Thagrosh goes next, and he flies through the forest. He casts Manifest Destiny, a spell that gives all his war beasts a dice drop effect. They get an extra die and drop the lowest for their melee attacks. He then casts Tenacity on himself. The Ravagore goes next and advances forward. He'll be taking a range shot at Imperatus. He'll boost it. James applies the Manifest Destiny bonus here, but he shouldn't. This only affects melee attacks, and the Ravagore is not affected by it. But It wouldn't be a Gearwig video report if we didn't get all the Legion rules wrong. But he hits. He'll be rolling dice -3 for damage. He'll boost the damage roll. Again, he'll apply the Manifest Destiny die when he shouldn't. And he'll do 7 damage. The Forsaken goes next. She'll advance, and then she'll do her 5-inch jump to land near the Ravagore and take his Fury. These League heroes are really fun. The bonuses get big and crazy the more you play, and this was late in the League and was cool. Typhon activates and advances toward Imperatus. He'll try to take his spray attack against him. It ends up being just out of range. The third Shredder just advances. The Rake makes a slam power attack against Imperatus. It's legal for a medium base to slam a large, but he'll get -2 to the attack roll, and he'll only slam him half as far. He boosts the attack, needing a 9. It hits with the Manifest Destiny bonus. He only rolls a 1 for distance, so at half distance he only gets slammed half an inch away. But it does knock him down. He'll be rolling dice -10 for damage, and ends up rolling 0 damage. The Shepherd moves up to clear the Fury off of the Shredder. She gets close to Thagrosh again, and this time we actually remember to check. She's within 3 inches and needs to make a command check, but she does pass. James then runs his ogres into the zone. He could have tried an assault charge against these elves and thrown his spears at them after charging, but he probably wouldn't have got within 5 inches to ignore their stealth. This way they can push up farther. Now if the elves want to step into that zone at all, they'll end up in melee and not be able to make ranged attacks. Then Anissa advances up toward her prey, the Mage Hunter Assassin. Normally she'd be good at killing this assassin, but the assassin has a Riven Bonds ability that allows her to ignore the first hit. The attack does hit, but the ability James forgot she had makes it so she takes 0 damage. Anissa doesn't get a second attack, so she's just got to use her light cavalry move to scramble out of there. Lastly, the Rake that passed his frenzy check just runs to engage some infiltrators. He's hoping to be a tough target there for them. And that's the end of James's second turn. Imperatus starts the turn by healing 5 to his force field. Gareth allocates 3 focus to Imperatus, and he immediately spends 1 to stand up. He keeps the rest of his focus and upkeeps Mirage for free thanks to Silas. He'll then take his 2-inch Mirage movement to slide back a little bit. Silas then activates. He advances toward that Shredder that got nearby and tries to bonk him with his stick. Then he misses the attack roll. Those dice are hard to read. Gareth activates and advances over to the Shredder to stab it a couple times. He'll need a 5 to hit. Rolls what looks like a 9. His Weapon Master dice will be -1 and do 13 damage, enough to destroy the Shredder. Gareth then uses his feat. He's got a bit of an oddball feat that does like 4 little things that sort of add up to a feat. Enemy models in his control area cannot cast spells, channel spells, spend focus points, or be moved by place effects. Now the part where they spend focus points or channel spells won't affect Thagrosh at all, but Thagrosh will not be able to cast spells in his control area, and none of these jumping models, like the 2 Rakes and his Forsaken from the Riven Bonds game, will be able to use their place effects. That little aspect of the feat rarely comes into play and often gets overlooked, but here in this game it's kind of big. The Arcanists then use Power Booster on the Banshee, giving him a focus. The infiltrators go next and declare a bunch of charges, going after both Anissa and the Rake. They end up with 2 successful charges on Anissa, and 5 charges on the Rake, including Iris. The 2 on Anissa need 7s to hit, thanks to Gang, and roll some unreadable dice. You know what, I think I have a filter that can fix this. Hold on a sec. Yeah, that'll do it. Alright, they roll... No, I still can't read it. I really thought that would help, but no, I guess not. That model's second attack appears to miss. Charge attack. Who knows? Then some more dice are rolled, and that apparently is enough to destroy Anissa. And 5 of the infiltrators attack this Rake, and lord, that's going to be like a million attacks I won't be able to read. No, it's alright, we'll find a filter that works. I almost know how to use this software. Here we go. No, nope. That's not gonna do it. Yeah, still unreadable. No, I got a whole folder full of these things. We'll figure it out. Hold on. Okay, got one. This one will do it. And readable. Nope. Nope. Still bad. No. I don't know why I thought bubbles would help, but no. Ugh, worst one yet. Why would anyone ever use this filter for anything? Look how terrible. Hey, look. One of these in the folder is like old-timey video. Check it out. Hitler's conquest continues as the goose-stepping German military machine marches unabated through Europe. Right? And then they'll cut to some dorky kid with like a cork pop gun and be all... But this plucky lad says phooey to the Fuhrer. They're always doing dumb stuff like that at the end of the videos. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, this stupid game. Anyway, after all this, the Rake ends up surviving somehow. The Mage Hunter Assassin activates next, and then advances toward the Rake. She'll have a 4-inch reach when she makes this attack. She'll need an 8 to hit, but misses. The Banshee goes next and just advances up. It'll try to take a shot at the engaged Rake to finish it off. In melee, its defense is effectively 19, up to 20 with tenacity. He'll need a 15 to hit, but misses. The shot then redirects onto an elf. That shot hits and kills the elf. The Arcanist goes next, and he gives Imperatus +2 damage to his melee attacks. The Magister advances to use his Whip Snap attack. If the attack hits, a nearby model will be allowed to move 3 inches. He fires at an Ogren, who is within range. The attack hits. It'll roll dice -4 for 0 damage, but Imperatus will be allowed to move now. And he shuffles over here. The Strike Force go next, and then they charge the War Spears. They need to get in that zone, and there's no way to do that without getting engaged, so they might as well charge. When they finish their charges, they end up like this. They are in melee with a terrifying entity, so they need to make a command check. But they pass. The War Spears have set defense, so the Elves need 8 to hit. And the first one misses. 2 more pair up to make a combined attack. They'll need a 6 now. It hits. They ignore the armor buff, so they'll roll dice -5, and do enough damage to destroy the Ogren. Dragon's Blood will do 1 point of damage on a 5 or a 6, but he rolls a 4. 2 more combine, and hit. And then rolling dice -5, they'll do 5 damage. 2 more pair up, but miss. And the last 2 pair up to hit, and then rolling dice -5, do 7 damage. Narn advances. He doesn't want to charge and deal with the set defense debuff. He needs a 4 to hit, and hits. He's a Weapon Master, rolling dice -5. He also ignores the armor buff. and he does 9 damage, which is enough to destroy the Ogryn. He'll roll for the Dragon's Blood side effect, but it doesn't do any damage. He then uses his sprint move to move deeper into the Ogryns. Brian seriously considers just charging Imperatus straight into James's forces here, but he doesn't think he'd be able to kill anything in one activation, having already spent a focus, so he shifts back into the Scather, takes a point of damage, and starts hitting the Rake. He boosts, needing a 9 to hit, and hits. He'll roll dice plus 4 for damage, and do 9 damage. He boosts the second attack, needing a 9. It hits even with 1 die falling off the table. And with dice plus 4 it does 7 damage. Doesn't kill the Rake, but it does set him on fire. And that ends Brian's second turn with the board looking like this. James starts his turn by checking the fire on the Rake, but it goes out. James starts by activating his Forsaken. He'd like her to advance up and then use her cool League ability to jump into those elves and blow up. But Gareth's feet is up, and if she's in his control area, she can't be placed by a place effect. And she is, so that's it for her. She can't do anything. James then vows to never forget about this feat ever again. The Ogryns attack now. They no longer get the prey bonus because their leader is dead. They need 7s. The first one hits, kills an elf. Second one kills an elf. And the rest end up missing. A Shredder goes rabid and runs, hoping to benefit from Thagrosh's feat later in the turn. Then Thagrosh advances. He gets right into the middle of the action and then casts Manifest Destiny. But he forgot about the feat again, even after vowing not to. So, one of the many things Gareth's feat do is prevent models from casting spells, so he cannot cast spells. Of course, he could have started his activation, cast the spell out of the control area, and then walked into it, but again, he forgot. So can't cast the spell at all. That's a bit of a disaster. He does use his feat. His Warbeast will be able to move and attack at the end of his turn, and then he holds on to most of his Fury for transfers because he's all exposed in the middle out here. One of the Rakes activates. He uses his Animus to become immune to free strikes. He wants to get over to Gareth too so that he can benefit from the feat later. And then, woo, point of view switch. Let's look at this from the other side. He's able to move into reach range of Gareth and makes an attack, but it misses. He's able to bite Silas, or attempt to anyway, but no, misses again. The second Rake activates and does something very similar. He uses his Animus to become immune to free strikes, and then he runs, which of course is patently illegal. A Warbeast is not allowed to use his Animus and run in the same activation. I'm shocked that I didn't see this at the time or didn't catch it at the time. This is very disappointing. I get a lot of the Legion rules wrong. I'm not particularly familiar with the faction, but this is like basic Horde stuff, and I don't know, I was not paying attention. This is an unfortunate gaffe, but you know what would cheer me up? More old-timey video footage. Yeah, that's a lot better. This is nice. Harkens back to a time, a simpler time, where men were men, America was still great, cartoons were a little bit racist. This is doing me wonders. I'm glad we did this. Typhon activates next, and he charges Imperatus. That's a thing he can do, right? That's a legal move, is it? Legion things can charge, can't they? I think I got this one right. Confidence a bit shattered here, but no, this is good. This is right on the level. Yeah. He'll need a 6 to hit, and he does. He'll be rolling dice minus 1 for damage, and end up doing 8 damage. His second attack hits and crits, which allows Typhon to throw Imperatus. Furious is a tough model to kill, and throwing might be the better option here. It might get him out of the way, knock him down, take him out for a turn. So that's what he decides to do. He'll be thrown half his strength, 5.5 inches, and he chooses a direction. We then scatter a d3 inches to determine the actual point of impact, and he ends up way over here. He ends up knocked down and will take another dice -1 damage roll. For 7 damage. He still has one more initial attack and has a special rule that allows him to use his breath weapon. He tries Gareth, needing an 11 to hit. But he misses. The spray also clipped the Shredder, but misses, as well as the Arcanist. This hits, and automatically destroys him. Typhon then uses his Animus excessive healing in the hopes that he doesn't die next turn. The Ravagore then activates. He advances up into the action. He's hoping to get a spit off here and then participate in Thagrosh's feat at the end of the turn. He targets Iris in the nice clumped up group of elves. He boosts, needing an 11 that hits. It pancakes a whole bunch of them, like so. He'll roll dice +2 on Iris, which is plenty. The blast damage will be dice -3, although we treated it as dice -4 for some reason. I think we were thinking the Ravagore was a 14, but we got everything else wrong, so why not this? It ends up mattering because 2 of the elves survive where only 1 should have. And they end up like this. The last Shredder advances up, and he'll use his Animus on Thagrosh, giving him +1 defense and armor in the hopes of keeping him alive next turn. The Shepherd advances, but she's clogged in the forest and can't quite get into range to do anything. At the end of his turn, Thagrosh's feat goes off, and each of his warbeasts can advance and make a melee attack. The Rake goes first, trying for Gareth, needing a 10. Rolls a 10. Gareth still has 3 focus, so the Rake will be rolling dice -5 for damage. And does 5 damage. The second Rake, the Rake who shouldn't even be there, does the same thing, looking for a 10. And he rolls a 10. Man, if he's going to roll 10s every time, you don't need Manifest Destiny. He rolls another 10 for another 5 damage. Again, Manifest Destiny would have done nothing here. Amazing. The Shredder advances up to try to take a bite out of Gareth, but he'll provoke a free strike in doing so. The Banshee hits with the free strike. He'll be rolling dice +5, I believe. And does plenty of damage to wipe the Shredder off the table. Then Typhon goes. He can't quite get to Gareth, so he takes a swing on the Banshee. He hits easily. He'll roll dice -2 for damage. And do 4 damage. Then the Ravagore takes his feat movement. He moves right up to the Banshee and takes a whack at him. He'll need a 7 to hit. He does. He'll roll dice -3, but only do 1 damage. The last Shredder moves in the hopes that he might block a charge lane or 2. James did some damage here, but his caster's right out in the open, albeit with plenty of transfers. And that's the end of James's 3rd turn. Brian starts his turn by restoring 6 boxes to Imperatus's force field. Gareth keeps all his focus and then takes his Mirage move to scooch up by the wall. An Arcanist activates and uses Power Booster to put 1 focus on the Banshee. The Magister activates and combo strikes the Ravagore with a charge. If he hits, he'll slam him. He just needs not Snake Eyes to hit in the back arc. The attack hits. It'll slam him a d6 inches, so 1 inch, but cut in half because he's a smaller model, so he moves half an inch and is knocked down. At dice -3, he'll take 3 damage. The Banshee activates and needs to get out of melee to use his ranged weapon. He'll take free strikes from the Rake and Typhon. The Rake will need a 4 to hit, and he does. Some idiot's got his soda in the way. Let's get that out of there. He'll roll dice -7 for damage and do 2 damage. Typhon needs a 3 to hit, and he will be rolling at dice -2, but only does 2 damage. The Banshee is then free to fire at Thagrosh. He'll need a 9 to hit. He boosts the attack roll and hits with an 11. The attack automatically knocks him down and will roll dice -4 for damage and does 5 damage. This causes him to poop out a shredder, and he tries to clog up another charge lane with it. The Strike Force activate next. These two down here try to advance to block line of sight to the one at the bottom, so that she can then advance away without taking a free strike. The Ogryn can no longer draw line of sight to her, and thus can't target her, and thus not make a free strike. She's now free to move to there. Brian advances the rest, ensuring that they are all in formation. Strike Force member along the bottom fires a shot at the Shredder blocking a charge lane. She'll need a 7 to hit, but misses. The rest make attacks on the Ogryn but aren't able to kill any. Silas uses Arcane Secrets on Gareth, then Gareth activates and advances out of melee. He has parry, so he's immune to all these free strikes. He just needs to be out of melee to use his ranged attacks. And he does so, ending up here. He casts Gallows on the Shredder in front of Thagrosh. He'll get an extra die and drop the lowest thanks to Arcane Secrets. He'll need a 7 and hits. He'll pull him 5 inches closer, but he'll bump into Thagrosh's base. At dice +1, he takes 11 damage. He fires his gun at Thagrosh, needing not 1s. He'll then roll dice -6 for damage and do 0 damage. He attacks again, needing a 3. He hits. He boosts the damage, needing dice -6. And does 10 damage that Thagrosh takes, leaving him very low on health. The infiltrators try to charge Thagrosh, being sure to avoid the Scather AoE on the ground. Two of them charge the Shredder hanging out in the middle there. And 2 more are able to get in behind Thagrosh. They end here in range of 2 models with Abomination, so they need to make 2 checks now. The first passes, as does the second. Close one. The first charge attack on the Shredder hits. It'll roll dice -1. Does 11 damage. That infiltrator's second attack hits. And at dice -1, that's plenty to destroy the Shredder. The remaining infiltrators will automatically hit Thagrosh at dice -7 and roll an extra die from Mage Killer. They will do 8 damage that gets transferred. The second attack does 2 more damage. The next Interceptor's charge attack does 3 damage. His second attack will do 4 damage. That has to get transferred. Thagrosh is down to 1 box. The last charge attack crushes him for 12 damage, which of course must be transferred. The last Infiltrator attack does 3 damage, and that must be transferred too. Narn activates. He has a crossbow. Who knew? So he's going to try to take a desperate shot at Thagrosh. He just needs not 1s to hit. It hits, but he'll be rolling dice -8. It does no damage. Lastly, the Mage Hunter charges Thagrosh. She'll automatically hit. She'll roll dice -9 with a Weapon Master die, and then double all the damage over for a total of 18 damage. Thagrosh can't transfer enough of it to survive, and that ends the game. It ended up being a close game despite all the rule bending. James was really kicking himself about messing up that Manifest Destiny cast. They had talked their feet out the turn before, and he wanted to make sure it was possible to cast a spell and then walk into his control area. And Brian assured him it was possible. So that was his plan the whole time, and then he just forgot during the activation, so that really annoyed him. But, as it happened, it didn't really matter. The attacks he made under Manifest Destiny were already almost maxed. He rolled 10 damage on 2 dice. If he had Manifest Destiny, best case scenario, he tosses in a 6 and does an extra point of damage on each attack, so he had no chance of killing Garroth with that. That entire all-in move really would have whittled him down for the next turn. And I don't know if he needed to be that aggressive. I thought he was in a pretty good spot. I think those War Spears would have held their own up at the top. And with the Typhon and the Ravagore splashing down AoEs and templates on those infiltrators, I think he might have been alright. As it was, Thagrosh sitting with Tenacity and 7 transfers is a pretty tough nut, even when he's wide out in the open. If those infiltrators didn't have that Mage Killer extra die, he would have survived easily. And then I think the game would have been over if James ever got a chance to act again. Brian did a great job when handed that situation, when given a big, beefy super transfer caster that must die that turn. He used all his models to make the assassination happen. He used a knockdown model, he took some free strikes, he did everything he needed to do to make that work, and it worked out well. Every time I watch infiltrators in action, I like them more and more. They're just one of my favorite units. Imperatus, also, one of the best warjacks around. He's so very good, and I think one of the best ways to handle him is to get him out of the action, not by burning through his ridiculous amount of boxes, but throwing him away, clogging him up, knocking him down, just pushing him outside and hope the game turns before he gets back in. That's the only luck I've really had against him, because he is really, really tough to kill. Thank you for watching. For more battle reports, articles, and guides, check out Gearwig.com. You can email me at boss@gearwig.com or check out our Facebook or Twitter pages. If you want to help the site, tell a friend and subscribe to our YouTube page. Thank you.